I might. Okay, yeah, we'll just go.
Just say fuck it. Here we
All
go.
right.
All right. Countdown. Three, two, one, go. Hey everybody, welcome to League of Legends Anonymous episode 182. It is your host, Wise Papa Smurf, with my one and only friend, Ponderous Sea Lion. Hey, what's up, Michael?
Did you just admit that I'm your only friend, Blake? Is
That's
that
right.
true?
This is a sad
Wow, I feel
admissions
pretty honored.
podcast.
All everyone else, fucking Sam, Ernie, Brad, Ashley. If I left you out, you know that you're not his friend anyways.
Yeah,
So
well,
don't worry about it.
we don't talk about those backstabbing motherfuckers anymore. So, what?
Obviously not.
Yeah, so what's going on, dude?
I guess I can announce that I'm like officially part of the podcast now. So
Well, you
you
did pass our most
guys,
engaging community vote with 59% of the vote says you're all right.
yeah, fuck the like what 13 of you, 15 of you that voted. Fuck that moron on the Twitter poll that Blake posted before
Yeah.
even knowing the context. Like there were votes for fuck that moron before anybody even knew what was
Yeah,
going
well,
on.
I think
They're
people
just
must
like,
have
nah,
met
he
you
probably sucks.
before.
Yeah, whatever,
I mean, that's the only,
dude. But
or they listened to League of Legends radio at some point.
and left a lovely comment.
They're like, well,
Let's talk
my
about that.
scathing one-star review on League of Legends radio wasn't enough. I need to take to Twitter.
I can't. One of the guys' name. So for context, when I had my podcast, League of Legends Radio, I got 2 one-star reviews within like a week of each other, and they both like crushed my 16-year-old spirit. But one of the guys, his name was I remember was Wylan, cause I'm hung. That was his 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 username, and
And
he said,
that's
"Get this
why
moron out of here,
that's why I trust
out of my
Wylan
own
while I'm
podcast."
hung's opinion.
Come on, man.
I mean,
I like. Why do
context.
I gotta deal with that shit?
I mean, context,
Ugh.
dude. He's hung.
He has a large penis and balls.
Yeah,
That means
yeah.
that he is more qualified.
Well, I'm just saying, if it comes to a guy who's not hung versus Wylan, probably going to go with Wylan. So, anyway, but
Okay.
yeah, a couple of years ago, those scathing one-star reviews crushed Michael's little baby soul. And then now we're back, and I get joy out of mentioning them.
All right. So
I think I'm starting to see
let's
why
talk
you're my
about
one remaining friend, Michael.
maybe so. You're just lucky that I have a thick skin,
Yeah, yeah. All right,
obviously.
so guys, it's probably going to be a short episode. We had a listener episode set up, but like I think due to communication error or for some other reason, uh, nobody showed up for the
We were both
listener.
sick, right?
No, I was there, and yeah, I had a headache, but I'd do it. I wasn't going to be happy about it, but I would have done it. I would have been less, you know, delightful than I normally am on the show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That would have been
Well, that's based on the
yikes.
Twitter poll I put up right after yours. It's like, is Papa Smurf delightful? And I only got like 100 answers of yes.
Oh,
And then
only a
the other
hundred.
answer was fuck Ponderous Sea Lion, that moron.
Again,
And
again.
that also got 100 answers. But, you know,
Split right down the. It was so funny. We were in the call with Sam, just casual Han, and he was like, "I think that's the most engagement we've ever gotten on one of our tweets." And I was like trying to figure out if he was fucking with
no,
me.
it's
Like
not.
he
It really
seemed like
was.
genuinely excited
No,
about
it was.
like getting 35 answers on the poll,
Yeah,
and
we've
I was
put
like,
up polls
"Well,
before, and
I'm
none of
glad that
them.
helps." Sam.
Yeah, none of them quite smashed you like that one did. You broke
Yeah.
records here.
It's my first week. I'm a social climber. What can I say?
I hope
Um,
so. Just starting at the bottom of the ladder. But no,
all
no,
right.
59%. That's pretty good approval ratings, man.
That's better than our president.
That is better
Ponder
than our
Sea Lion
president.
for president.
Yeah, it's actually the total inverse of our president, right? He's in like the mid 30s.
Uh, Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
So hang on to your base,
so
buddy.
I don't have any porn stars coming to allege things against me though, so I don't know.
You paid him
And that'd
off.
probably boost our ratings if we did,
Well, did you pay him off?
but I don't. There's no porn stars coming out of the woodworks.
I
Sorry.
see. Well, that's a mistake, Michael. You're
Oh,
still young. There could still be porn stars.
got my whole porn star smashing career ahead of me.
Oh. So,
Stupid.
side story. My wife came downstairs to get something to drink, and I said there could be porn stars. And she turned around and gave me a weird look, and then walked straight forward into a speaker. And I hope she's okay, because that looked like it hurt.
I hope you're okay too, Blake's wife.
Yeah, she's nodding that she's okay. So that's good.
I'm okay, Blake. Thank you for asking.
So anyway, League of Legends. We should probably start talking about that. There was a patch this week,
Whatever.
and you came up with an idea that I thought was pretty interesting. So why don't you throw it out there while I see if my wife is bleeding?
Sure. Okay, so everybody does patch analysis now. Ascara does it. LS does it. People, basically what I'm saying, people more qualified than us do patch rundowns. And I thought that an interesting way for us to approach patches would be to look at the specific changes that are made, like Lee Sin getting his range buff this patch, just as an example, and I think he got something else buffed. I'm not super familiar with the patch, but just look at the patch a few days or like when it comes out, and then record the podcast, and we all make predictions about how much a champion's win rate is going to change based on a given buff or nerf. So like Lee Sin's range buff, if that was the only buff he was getting, I'd put it at about, I'd say it'd affect him like 1%. Kai'Sa for the first one, so the Kai'Sa balance update after hotfix, she lost 2 base damage and her Q costs 10 more mana. So for a nerf like that, I would estimate that her win rate would fall like 0.3%. And then we have everybody who's on the podcast that week give their answers. And then the next week we spend like 5 or 10 minutes just going over how close everybody was, who was right, and then just making it kind of a competition like that. So,
all right. So for this week,
that makes it a little bit more interesting.
Yeah. So for this week, it's a head-to-head showdown between you and me.
Yeah.
So let's write our numbers, I guess, down in the podcast live chat.
Okay.
And then that way we have them saved for posterity since we didn't do show notes. And
sure.
We can talk about the exciting ones.
Is that a room in the Discord?
Yeah. Yeah, it's live podcast chat right above the podcasting room.
Oh, I knew that.
It's the thing we're supposed to be checking when we're talking live on the show.
Oh, shit.
Nobody's in there right now. Don't worry about it.
Great.
Yeah, this is a sneaky Sunday show. Nobody knows what we're doing.
Sneaky Sunday. I like that. We could do sneaky Sundays where nobody knows that it's happening and we get no engagement.
It seems like a backfiring poor marketing plan. Well, I know there's like two things you're not supposed to do in marketing, and one thing is don't tell anybody what you're doing, and the other one is Hitler mustaches.
Well,
both of those things receive major negatives.
I haven't shaved in like 3 days, so
okay, whatever you do, keep it all or shave it all. Don't just drop off the sides.
Okay.
I'm just saying, if you think to yourself, the space directly under my nose is not very warm, then you should just grow a full mustache.
Noted.
Okay.
These are the things that you learn later in life, ladies and gentlemen.
After your first several Hitler mustaches, you pick it up. You start getting weird looks.
Yeah, I wonder why. It's super weird, dude. I don't know why that is. All right, so let's look at the first thing on the patch, Kai'Sa. I mentioned it just now, but you were like trying to make sure that your wife wasn't in agonizing pain or something. I don't know, something stupid.
She seemed fine. She bounced back.
Okay, well, that's good. She's springy. That's good.
She's a tough old bird.
So Kai'Sa, this patch lost 2 base attack damage, cut down from 65 to 63, and her Q Icathian Rain, Isathian Rain. I don't know how you're supposed to say Icathian. Is that it? Her Q costs 10 more mana. That's what I'm trying to say. So -2 base attack damage and +10 mana cost on her Q. So my estimate for that is 0.3% change, nerf, like 0.3% down from whatever her win rate is right now.
All
so
right.
Let me write that. Kaisa.
I put in there that I don't think it's going to have a change.
Okay, so you think that it's going to stay the same?
No, I think it's going to stay the same. The reason I think that is because I think people are still learning her. And I think the natural learning curve of like, I'm playing Kaisa, I know what to do a little bit better, is going to compensate. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, so the next thing is the Duskblade changes, which we don't actually have to go over because they're buffing all the champions that bought that item. But basically, Night Stalker does a little bit less damage or it does the same damage for melee and ranged champions now, whereas it used to do a little bit. It used to do 20 more for melee champions because Riot hates melee champions getting to do damage. But the buff for it is melee basic attacks instantly kill traps and wars that are disabled, and it won't be triggered if you're currently using Sweeping Lens. So those are just quality of life changes. I don't think those actually offset the damage.
I actually think this is a
that
nerf.
It's losing it all.
I mean, this is just an overall nerf.
No, it's definitely a nerf.
So, like,
Yeah,
ADCs that build lethality, this is not something that's going to be as good for you at all.
Yes.
So, but that being said, for junglers, because it would be like melee junglers like Nocturne or something that would potentially like this item. The ward sweeping is nice, but the rest of it is kind of...
Losing the burst damage, I think, is much more important. But that's why I think they buffed pretty much all of the Duskblade users. So, like, let's look at Graves. Base stats, his attack damage growth goes from 2.41 per level to 3 per level, and his magic resistance goes from 0.5 per level to 1 per level, which is actually pretty significant. That means he's going to have 9 extra magic resist at level 18, and 0.6 times 20. That's going to be about a little less than 12 extra attack damage at level 18. So, I mean, that's actually pretty significant, a buff. And then his smoke screen has a slightly lower cast time, and the vision applies a little bit faster. So, granted, he was a user of Duskblade, which is why they're giving him these buffs, but I don't think he's in a particularly great spot right now either way. So, I'm going to say that his win rate increases by 0.2%. I think that's all it's going to do.
I'm going to say same. I don't think that's going to do anything. I think that the loss of an item, the buffs are good, but smokescreen's one of those intangible things that, like, it doesn't seem like it's as good as it is.
I'm actually not looking at the smokescreen. I'm basing that purely on his base stat increases, because it opens him up to go non-Duskblade build.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think, like, how many times are you going to be like, oh my god, thank God I had that extra half a point of magic resist per level. That's 9 points at level 18. That'll save me, right? I mean, the AD growth is nice, but that's not gonna make a huge difference because you're gaining, let's see, 0.6 a level, which means that by level 18 you'd have like 12 points of damage, and you lost, let's see, ranged 15 to 100 points of Night Stalker damage.
Yeah.
I mean,
to be fair, when I play Graves, I didn't always go Duskblade on him. There are other item builds I can go. I just feel like this opens you up to go builds like Phantom Dancer a little bit more. Like you can go Phantom Dancer and Black, and those are both synergize really well with these buffs because you get more AD, which means that your AD, like, it works. It's like double effective to get your AD buffed on a champion that builds crit, if that makes any sense, because your crits are going to do more damage than, like, so if you have an extra 2 AD and then you get a crit, then it's like you have an extra 4 AD. So
Yeah, I
that
mean, I hear
actually
what you're
helps him
saying.
in that sense for crit builds a little bit, but and the tankier builds will be a little bit better because 9 magic resist isn't really significant, but it is significant if you have a health pool of 2.5k HP. Like it actually does reduce a decently significant amount of damage at that point. So that's why I'm giving him a slight increase in win rate, just 0.2%. So
All right, well,
yeah.
let's talk about Kane.
All right.
So
Uh,
Kane's changes. His W, Blade's Reach, does 1.3 bonus AD up from 1.2, so another zero point 0.1 bonus AD. And then Umbral Trespass, the ratio gets changed from 1.5 bonus AD to 1.75 bonus AD, but Rost's ratio remains unchanged. What do you think?
I think he's gonna receive. I think that it's kind of weird to talk about Kane because there's the different forms. Like if I was to make one separately for Rest and for Shadow Assassin, I could do that. I think that Shadow Assassin is gonna take a hit because Duskblade was super core on Shadow Assassin. I play a little bit of Kane myself, and that just augmented your burst so heavily because of the way that you can animation cancel his auto and W to go off at the same time, and obviously your auto attack would proc the Duskblade. So I don't see this particularly being that useful because it's rare for me that my issue with Kane was my ult not doing enough damage. You know what I mean? Like it feels like once you get into that one-shot range, you're gonna one-shot them. The thing is that you just are losing so much of your early game burst, which is before you can actually like one-shot any squishy on the enemy team. So I actually think he's gonna take a little bit of a hit, which is kind of weird because he's not in that great of a spot right now, anyways.
Yeah, I actually said
So
he's
I'm
going to
just
go.
gonna knock off. Sorry,
No, that's fine.
what?
What are you going to knock
I was
off?
gonna say I'm gonna knock off 0.2% of his win rate for this.
Okay. I actually knocked him up, and now I'm regretting it after hearing your explanation. So,
I mean,
okay,
you
so
you can
here's my
change. I don't
thought.
care.
Um, you can still do very well with one lethality item with Kane. You can actually like build uh, the one that makes you move faster. I,
Yomu's.
Yomu's, thank you. I was wanting to say Ginsu's. I knew that was wrong, but it's Yomu's Ghostblade. You can build that. That's still very good on Kane, and then you can build into some heavier just AD items or lifesteal or something like that, or like something that's kind of like a Death Stance or something. I don't know that that's gonna hurt his build path all that bad because with the amount of damage that you're supplementing onto his kit with the AD ratio increase, I think he'll still be able to murderate a squishy regardless.
Yeah.
So like I don't know that it's going to be fatal, and I think building like more heavy AD items instead of pin items will actually help him be more worthwhile at the end of the game. So
Hmm.
I think it's probably going to improve, but we'll see. I mean,
Okay.
that's going to be really hard to. You made a lot of good points, so you're probably right. I'll give you that one.
I mean,
But I'm
who
locked
knows,
in,
dude?
man. I said up 0.5%. We'll
We're
see what
locked
happens.
in doing it.
All right,
All right. So
Kha'Zix.
the cause exchanges are super numbery. Not a big fan. So basically, the base damage at every rank of Taste Their Fear is decreased. The ratio went up from 1.2 bonus AD to 1.3 bonus AD. The isolated bonus, this is pretty important, is from 65% additional damage for isolated targets to 100% additional damage to isolated targets. And then the isolated damage is down at earlier ranks and up at later ranks.
Okay, so
But
how about this? Barely down at early ranks. Like at rank
okay,
1, you lose 7,
okay.
but up heavily at later ranks.
Yeah, I guess it surpasses it at rank 2, so it's kind of pointless. You'll get rank 2 at level 4, so it doesn't really matter. Plus it looks like the bonus attack damage ratio is going from, is that 1.98? They wrote that super weird, but it looks like it's about 2.0 bonus attack damage roughly to 2.6 bonus attack damage.
So
And W no longer does bonus damage to monsters. So
Okay,
Yeah,
that's fine. Okay, so I think this is gonna hurt his early clear because they don't want this dude coming out of the jungle doing like a million fucking damage, right?
right.
And they want you to actually have to build some damage and like hunt things to evolve and all that, right? So I get really, and they're like really putting it on his isolated thing because that's his mechanic, right? So I get that, but at the same time, like I have some concern that when he gets rolling, he's gonna really get rolling. Like I don't know. I think you the same thing that I said
Yeah,
of Kane. I think you can also say of Kha'Zix. I think that
I think that Q Evolve is going to come back and be really stupid.
yeah,
And I'm not really looking forward to that. I don't understand why Riot takes these S tier junglers that have been so good for so long, and they're not okay with just like flat nerfing them. It's super weird to me. I don't really get it. Like this guy's been S tier for the entire season, and then like one of his items gets nerfed, and they're like, oh no, we have to cover our poor baby Kha'Zix. He's getting knocked out of the meta. Possibly, he might just go be an A tier jungler instead of an S tier jungler.
but they haven't really done
What are we
that.
gonna
I mean,
do?
a little bit for Lee Sin, but Lee Sin used to be the golden boy of junglers.
Oh, sure. I think that Lee Sin was a casualty of war. I think they're gonna find a way to get him back into form soon, and they sort of did that this patch. But uh, um, yeah, I don't know.
But I
A lot
mean,
of people
here's
are.
the thing: like, I actually prefer to play QMax Kha'Zix. It feels more real. Like he doesn't feel like a
Oh
champion.
no, Armax is retarded. I don't know why that's in the game. Armax is fucked up, and I will be the
Well, I
first
mean,
person to
it's
admit
in
it.
the game because you have true stealth and you can literally be everywhere and disappear, and it's garbage.
I mean,
Like
there's this guy named
that's
Metaphor
dumb.
who's there's a guy named Metaphor who's a high elo Kha'Zix main, and he talked about this thing that he calls going hunting, which is where you just run into the enemy jungle by their red buff and cycle
Yeah, you
through the
cycle between all
brushes
those
and gain,
bushes. Yeah.
and you just wait for someone to walk through, and then you kill them, and he's just like, "Yep, we're going hunting," and then he just waits for someone to walk through and kills them, and it's like that is messed up. That should not be in the game. So I mean, I like QMax Kha'Zix. I think that's something that should be considered with this is how much better his already good objective control is going to be. I think that he's going to be really good at taking early dragons, maybe like level 4 now. I don't know because he's losing. Well, he's losing bonus damage on his W. He's not losing bonus. Like he's not losing the healing on his W. The healing is going to stay the same, and the Q bonus damage is going to offset the W bonus damage against isolated targets by a long shot, which is Dragon and Rift Herald. So I actually think that he might get a win rate increase, especially at low elo. I'm going to go with a 0.4% increase for Kha'Zix win rate this patch. That's
I
my
give
guess.
him a full plus 1%.
Okay.
I think he'll be better. I think he's just going to be better because I think people will shift back to QMax. I think you'll evolve your ult first because you should. I mean, you should just buy boots and evolve your ult first. It's got way too much power in it, you
All right.
know, until they turn down. Like, they need to tamp down how quickly each bush resets your invis, right? Or put a
Yeah,
cooldown on it or
yes.
something.
Or make the ult passive stealth be like Rengar stealth, which is what they really should have done from the start, and then make his ultimate true stealth. But
Yeah, okay,
you
that's
know,
fair. Yeah.
I think that's how it should be done,
Like
honestly, because
camo
I think it's
instead
dumb.
of like true
Right,
invis.
exactly. Camo on his passive ult, true stealth on his real ult, which true stealth is fucked up mechanic anyways that shouldn't be in the game, but whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways,
All right.
I
So,
guess moving on to Misfortune.
yep. She's basically just getting a 2 attack damage growth base stat instead of a 1.
Instead of 1.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say
goes from 1 to
plus
2.
0.3%. I'm just going to say, what the hell? MF plus.
I'm just going to say the same. I don't think that's going to change anything. And honestly, I wonder if people are going to go back to the crit MF build. And I don't think it's that bad.
Well, I mean, as long as they're better than that MF that we had the other day,
Zing.
We
Throwing
played this.
shade.
We played this game where like I was playing Jackson. Were you playing Blake Rakan?
Fuck if I remember.
Or were you playing Thresh?
Oh,
No,
I
you're playing
probably was
Thresh, I
playing
think. You
Thresh.
played
I've been
Thresh like every
spamming
game.
Thresh and ranked.
But like I like jumped on these people and we were fighting in the jungle, and this is like we're all like level 8 or 9, and we're like holding them in place for the MF ult, and it's like 3 squishy champions.
Oh, I
and then
remember
the
that.
MF ults.
Yeah.
And the MF ults, and they sit in the entire duration of the ult for like the entire MF ult. And then they all just walk out with 40% HP. And
Yeah,
kill
I
all
don't.
of us.
I
I've just never
still
seen
have
MF
no
do that little
idea.
damage.
I still have no idea how that didn't do damage. I've never
Yeah.
even seen an MF ult not do that much damage.
I know. It was insane. Even support MF ult
Yeah, it
does
still
a fuck ton of
hurts.
damage.
I mean, I don't. That one was one I still don't get. But like MF, I don't think she's in a bad place. I don't like. I've done the lethality build on MF. Yeah, it's cool whenever you can ricochet a Q and like pretty much one shot an ADC. That's fun. But you can kind of do a similar thing with crit build anyway. So I don't know. I actually think crit build is pretty good, and I think people don't give it enough credit because it takes a little longer to come online, and it has some like RNG element to it. But regardless, it's still very good. And at end game, crit is way better than lethality. And it doesn't even matter whether you go lethality or not. She's still an insane good lane bully. So, you know, I don't think this is. If anything, I think this helps her, and I think that like the lethality itemization on her was good and probably the best build for her, but it wasn't that much better than crit.
Especially now that Duskblade is nerfed. She's probably going to go back to crit, I think.
Yeah.
Would be my guess, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe
well,
not.
I think she'll stay the same for now. I don't think you'll see any kind of meaningful change there.
Yeah.
All right, next.
Yeah,
Nocturne.
we're guessing 0.3%, and that's it. So is Nocturne next? Or
Nocturne
Rengar?
is next.
Holy
So
shit.
Nocturne, our base damage increased from 150 to 350 to 150 to 400. So it gets 25 points additional damage at the second and third rank each.
And then the ratio goes up from 1.2 to 1.5 bonus AD. So
Yeah, it
take this
spikes,
in,
spikes a little harder. More damage equals more damage on the end.
but I don't know how much this helps because you're not really going to see much of the benefits until rank 11 or like until you're level 11 because you're not really going to have that much AD built, like enough to make a significant difference. I
actually think this kind of hurts him because realistically, the burst he got from like one item
from Duskblade is more than he's going to get from this.
and
Yeah,
you could build tank after like a couple of lethality items and then go full tank. And now to get the AD needed to make up the difference in damage, it's a shitload. So I think this just hurts Nocturne.
I'm going to say he's going to stay the same. I think that his burst is going to be the same.
I think he's.
I just don't think this helps him.
I think he's going to fall 1%.
Okay, 1%. So now we move on to Rengar. Q damage ratio increased, E damage ratio increased, R damage ratio increased, and bug fixes. So his let me see. This is a bunch of shit to read because it's just fucking bug fixes.
I don't play Rengar. So whenever it says your ferocity lockout for Q and E went from 0.25 seconds to 0.1 second, that doesn't mean anything to me. What does that mean?
I believe it means, and I could be wrong because I don't play him either. Honestly, I don't know. I think it just means that you can cast your spells slightly sooner, but I don't actually know. I don't think it makes much of a difference either way. I'm just going to look at the damage ratios because Q went from 1.3 to 1.4 total AD, so that's 1.3 total to 1.4 total. Bullet Strike went from 0.7 bonus AD to 0.8 bonus AD. And R went from the leap bonus damage is 0.3 total AD to 0.5 total AD. This taken combined with his the loss of Duskblade, I'd say he gets like a 0.1% increase. I don't think it's going to do much at all.
I think he's actually going to go down. And the reason I say that is not because of any of the other shit, but because of all the bug fixes they did to Q. And they're all negative. So, I mean...
the bug fixes make him do less damage?
Yeah. Adjusted the Q animation to make canceling the animation feel better. That's a plus. Fixed a bug where he would get 3 fast attacks if he cast Q while leaping. He should only get 2. So that's a whole attack lost.
Right.
Right. Fixed a bug where Rengar would attack again instantly after landing if he cast Q while leaping. There's another attack lost. You know, fixed a bug where Savagery would not grant ferocity when it missed because of a dodge blind. Okay, that would actually be a plus. And then fixed improper particles on Q. That's a net 0. It's just aesthetic. But I mean, you just lost like 3 auto attacks worth of damage in bug fixes on his Q, and in compensation you gain 0.1 AD.
Yeah.
And his Q is like the vast majority of his damage.
Right.
So I don't know. I feel like this is going to be a net negative. But, like, I don't think it's going to be that big. I think it's going to be Rengar minus 1%.
Okay. So now we're on to Shaco. Q now grants Shaco's next basic attack bonus physical damage. His next basic attack after he uses Q now also deals 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. I don't know when those rank up. I guess when he ranks
1 through 5. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I was thinking he was on his passive for some reason. I was like, that's not right. So now he gets, per level, he gets 10 bonus damage plus 0.7 bonus AD plus 0.3 AP bonus physical damage. That's pretty good. I think that actually makes up for the loss of Duskblade, because you should be maxing, at least putting 3 points in your queue anyways.
I think it more than makes up for it, and I think you're going to see a return of AD Shaco, which would be good, because I think AD Shaco is the way it's kind of the champion was meant to be played. The AP is kind of a, I don't want to say like a weird build, but it's not probably the intended build when the champion was made anyway. But I'm going to give it a +3, or plus 1.5%. And by that, the reason I'm doing that is because it used to just do crit damage. Now it still does crit damage, and it does all this. And it does it early. Because remember, Shaco's a gank-heavy machine, so you're going to do like crit damage plus 30, 40, 50, and I don't know if that damage crits as well.
I don't think it crits. I think it's just
bonus damage,
like tacked on.
Right.
Yeah,
okay, good. Well, regardless, even that, like a 30 damage buff on like a level 5 attack, that's a hell of a gank, but like that's a hell of a gank damage.
It does some damage, dude. It definitely does some damage.
I just think it makes him better at what he does earlier, and that compensates for building an item that he would not have built for some time. Because, I mean, you're not going to complete a Duskblade by level 5, ever. You know what I mean? Like, that'll never happen.
For sure.
And this will actually make you more likely to get kills.
Get those early kills.
Yeah, and then thus more likely to snowball AD faster.
The damage that you're losing.
Yeah, and you now have an AD ratio aside from critting. Because nowhere in here does it say that you lose your crit.
Right. No, this is just bonus.
Yeah. So you have crit and then another 0.7 bonus AD ratio with all this base damage. That's going to hit like a fucking truck.
Yeah, I was actually playing with the Shaco main a lot recently, and I'm curious to see how this affects his games because he would always go Duskblade pretty much first item because it's so good on Shaco. So I wonder if he'll change his build now that this is coming, but we'll
I
have
mean,
to
shit, I
see.
could see you building like Ginsu's or
Yeah,
Yomu's.
I don't
Why
know.
do I keep saying Ginsu's? Ginsu's actually
Yomus, yeah.
wouldn't be bad either because he has an AP
It would be
ratios.
bad first item,
But
but
I
it
mean,
wouldn't be bad in general necessarily. But
but I
yeah.
mean, shit, like Yomu's, you go invisible and then run at him at 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Yeah. No, it definitely
I mean,
it's good shit.
that has its merits. Talon.
Especially if you go talent. Let's move to talent.
Passive damage now continues
So
scaling after level 11 until level 18. Our ratio is increased. So now we
by point
go,
2 bonus AD for the R
yeah,
increase.
yeah, point 0.2 bonus AD for the R increase. Um, Now, is that like, I know the more blades you hit, the better, but where is that damage coming in on his kit?
Um I mean, I just assume that it means that his R is going to do that much more damage, but it's not affecting the base damage, and it's only affecting the damage ratio. I actually think that Talon's win rate is going to go down this patch because most Talons would probably want to rush Duskblade for the early lane pressure that gives them to burst their opponent, and not having access. Like, these buffs really only like super help his late game. Like, post level 11 is when these buffs really start to come through, and losing that lane phase pressure that you would get from, like, finishing your Duskblade at level 7 or level 8, it gives you a lot less burst potential on your lane opponent in the early to mid game. And I actually think that he's going to lose 0.5% on his win rate this patch because of the Duskblade nerfs. But yeah.
I'm going to go full percent. Same reasons. I just think it's going to hit him harder.
All right, let me Talon minus
All right.
0.5.
Wukong. Attack damage growth increased from 3.2 to 4. That's pretty big. And Q crushing blow 1.1 AD to, which it used to just have a 1.1 AD ratio. Now it's 1.1 to 1.5 on Q.
Okay.
Okay. So here's my question. That seems like a lot, right? But you, like most people that I knew, I don't play a lot of Wukong, so I may be wrong about this, but I was under the impression that you're supposed to do like Emax on Wukong.
That is correct. Yes.
So
Max is better.
this QMax you won't be getting until like level 13 or 14?
Yeah. Yep, that's correct.
So it won't be
So
until that you get your full AD ratio increase there. The base AD growth is good, but it's like 0.8. So 0.8 times 18 is about 10 AD over the course of the game.
this could actually cause Bruiser Wukong to be a little bit better. I think that full AD Wukong is still going to be the best build for solo queue. But this might make like the Black Cleaver build of old be a little bit more attractive on him because you're going to have base AD to make up for the burst that you would lose. That's going to help a lot. 0.8 per level. 0.8 per level is actually significant, and it's also going to. The thing about your Q is that it's obviously going to shred their armor as well as doing all this extra damage that it wasn't dealing before. So this might be good for Bruiser Wukong to make a comeback, but I think that losing Duskblade, because that again, Wukong was another champion who wanted to rush Duskblade. Like, sometimes you can go Yomu's, but Duskblade was better on him because your whole goal is AD Wukong. It's just to burst whoever you're against, and I don't think he's as good at that this patch because, like you said, you're not getting that bonus damage until pretty late in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And you're definitely going to have your Duskblade finished if you were still to rush it way before these Q buffs come in. So I'm going to say minus 0.7% on Wukong for this patch.
Okay. I said same. I think he'll stay where he is. I don't think it's really going to affect him. Because I think what he does, I think the lethality build is overkill, and he's capable of doing it with his base damage anyway.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get what you mean.
So, because I mean, he's just going to burst squishies, and he's going to do that either way. The lethality makes it easier, but I think he can legit do the same thing. Played well.
Yeah.
And most, the reason I don't think it's going to affect is whenever I say played well, most people who aren't Wukong mains don't just play Wukong.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, he's a champion that has a lot of, it's like a devoted base. So I don't really think it's
right, like Diana, kind of.
Yeah.
Like if you're not a Diana main, you probably don't play Diana.
Right. I don't think he's like a Thresh, where everybody wants to play Thresh, or everybody plays Lee Sin, or everybody, whatever. But, all right. Zed. Q damage to targets beyond the first is decreased. That goes from 60% to 50%. However, there used to be a multi-hit penalty where you would land multiple shurikens on the same target, and it no longer causes each shuriken beyond the first to deal 75% damage. So basically, you don't do as much pass-through, but if you can hit multiple targets, it more than makes up for it. Or hit shadow shurikens, right? It more than makes up for the difference. Deathmark, the stored damage percentage goes 25, 35, 45 to 25, 40, 55.
I think this helps out good Zed players a lot. I think it's good that they're nerfing Zed's wave clear. I think it's dumb that an assassin that's as mobile as him gets as good of wave clear as he has. So I think that's a good place to hit him while also being able to buff his outplay potential with his multiple shurikens. Basically, this just rewards you for being good at Zed and punishes you for mindlessly shoving the wave. I think his win rate goes up a significant amount in high elo, but I don't know that it does go up in low elo particularly. So I'm going to say for his overall win rate goes up 0.5% is my guess.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and say it's up 2%. And the reason I'm going to say that is because while the Duskblade build was really good on him, because of what he basically did with the Night Stalker damage, did an extra buttload of damage, right? Mm-hmm. I think that the lost damage you're going to be able to make up for with additional additional shuriken damage. I think will make up for it, and I think that in every scenario where you weren't applying Duskstalker, you're going to do way more damage in general, right? So
yeah.
The fact that
it's
you
just
lose,
less guaranteed damage.
Yeah, the fact that you lose burst and you lose some kind of pushing potential damage, and that's only 10% of your pushing potential damage, which is significant. But like I said, if you can hit 2 shurikens, then yeah, congratulations, you've buffed his damage to champions but reduced his wave clear. That's fine. It probably needed to happen anyway, but I don't see any ADCs really surviving Deathmark anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't see that happening as much.
Right.
So, especially with 55% damage dealt, you're probably just dead.
Yep. I agree. Wise Papa Smurf.
All right. I said Zed will go up 2%. You said Zed will go up 0.5%.
Yep.
I think that's actually my biggest. I gave him my biggest nod of the entire patch.
Yeah, I think you did. I mean, I think it's going to be good for him. If it was if they were buffing his E, I'd probably have been more generous. And I think that 2% in Master Diamond 1 Challenger bracket is realistic, but at Bronze, where people don't know how to land their shurikens, I don't know that this actually helps him a lot, because if you're bad at aiming skill shots, which, let's be real, most people are, you're losing that R auto, just guaranteed bit of damage from the Dusk Blade.
Sure.
It's going to be a lot less now. So
Yeah, sure.
I think that he's I think he's much better now, but I don't think that it's going to translate very well into his win rate. But I could be wrong. So
Well, I mean, the reason I say
it out.
that is because just like with Wukong, like you don't just casually pick up Zed. I think.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
Okay, so you don't casually pick up Zed and be any good with him. He's a champion that requires like practice, lots of practice on, right? And if you don't do that,
Right.
you're gonna get like you're not gonna be able to execute your combos properly anyway. But I think that never changed. I think bad Zeds will still be bad Zeds. And any change to the numbers doesn't change that because it's an execution problem, right? So I think it doesn't really matter what you do to a low elo Zed who doesn't have a lot of experience on that champion, their win rate's still going to be hot garbage with Zed. Simply because they haven't mastered his mechanics, right? It's an insanely hard champion to pilot. So so I don't think that's going to make much of a difference losing easy damage because if you can't execute the rest of the kit, it doesn't really matter anyway.
Right.
All right. So
yeah, I think I'm with you there. Let's skip reading
Kaisa.
the numbers on the Kaisa.
Okay,
buffs.
so I feel like I need to I don't want to go through the entire. Well, I guess we can just do the champions and then
just
with it.
Read the subheading right under her name. We can just go based off of that because there are like a shit ton of numbers here.
So like I just said, Kaisa was going to lose or no change. I disagree with what I said earlier, considering all these buffs, right? Because these buffs make a huge difference. So, for example, her attack range is increased from 500 to 525. That's fucking huge.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, especially for somebody who's playing ADC. That is really huge. So, like, okay, I mean, that in and of itself will make an enormous difference in her win rate. The fact that people are still learning her makes an enormous difference in her win rate. So they're increasing her stack ratio per damage on the plasma stacks, and it goes from 0.1 to 0.3 originally. Now it goes from 0.2 to 0.4 AP.
And that's the AP ratio, right?
Yep. And plasma detonation ratio goes from 2.5% missing health per 100 ability power to 3.75 per 100 ability power. So you get more execute damage.
Right, okay.
Okay. A Cathian Rain goes from 575 range to 600 range. The AP ratio doubles from 0.2 to 0.4. The AP ratio for 6 missiles doubles from 0.5 to 1. The AP ratio...
Oh, they're just really buffing AP Kaisa across the board, looks for the most part.
The AP ratio on Void Seeker drops from 0.65 to 0.45. And then it says, Void Seeker deals the same amount of damage to his second skin's buffs above. So, an evolved Void Seeker actually deals more damage than before. Because of the buffs to the passive.
Okay. And then her E, the cast time is lowered. The bonus movement speed is up from 40 to 60 to 55 to 75, and the maximum bonus movement speed is up. That was the minimum, and the maximum is up from is up from 80 to 120 to 110 to 150. And her R, the radius around enemy champions that she can teleport to, is now 525 instead of 500. And the shield is granted on cast and lingers for 3 seconds after the dash. Wow, that's a lot of buffs, actually. I actually am going to give her a plus 3% win rate increase this patch.
Yeah,
I think
I'm going to say
fucking
4.
huge. Because, like Blake was mentioning earlier, the people learning how to get better at the champion is going to affect that. These buffs are obviously going to affect that. And reading how good AP Kai'Sa is probably going to be now
Actually, I'm going to
is
edit
going to
that.
offset
I'm going to go
AD.
5. I'm going to go 5%. I think
Yeah,
it'll actually be that.
and bonus attack range is actually massive. Blake was right about that.
I mean,
So
that's
I mean,
huge. And then the bonus Q
these are
range is huge.
crazy.
Because those
Yeah,
are, I mean, for AD Kaisa, those are the exciting things, right? Because your W doesn't matter to AD Kaisa. It just doesn't,
it's
right?
a gap close
It's a
and a
gap
scouting
close,
tool.
right? And your Q though, having an additional 25 range, your your like regular auto attacks having an additional 25% range, that is stupid. You
Yeah,
know,
they went a
just
little
those
overboard
buffs.
here.
Yeah, I think so too. And I love it. Like in the thing, they're like, "Well, she's new and people are still learning her, so we're hesitating that we don't know, you know." And I'm like, "You just gave her a buff to like every AP ability she's got, and a whole bunch of like really like okay." So the Callista nerf, like last patch, everyone's like, "Oh my god, she lost, attack range. She's dead." Right? Like
Yeah,
that was huge or whatever. You know what I mean? Like those are the biggest felt buffs with ADCs. Whenever
yeah.
Lucian lost his range, everybody freaked out, right?
And
And
then
it
ended up being the
what
most broken thing ever.
yeah, but
But that's
they
another
lost
story.
attack range, but then they were like, "Oh yeah, you can also dash endlessly." Like I don't know how
That's
that
so
was
stupid.
a good idea, but regardless, these kind of things, like those are big difference makers in what, like if you look at Caitlyn's kit and the fact that like her infinitely long attack range makes her a lane bully. That's what makes her oppressive, right? Those buffs to range you really have to pay attention to. So
Yeah, that's like the easiest way to spike or drop a champion's win rate is their attack range if it's an ADC.
mm.
But yeah.
All
So
right.
on to Lee Singa. Passive energy return increased at later levels. It's
Was
the
that a
first
huge
attack.
problem?
Uh,
I mean,
kind
did you ever feel like,
of,
damn,
not
I'm out of
really.
energy?
Yeah, sometimes when I played Lee Sin, sometimes, but um, I wouldn't say it was like a constant thing where I was like, oh no, I'm out of energy. But it can make, if you're like at half energy and you want to execute a combo quickly, that can make it difficult. Or if you want to, if you're just like casting your abilities without auto attacking in between because you need to do the fastest combo possible, that can also affect it. Like if you can only weave in one auto, this helps that because now you're getting, for your first attack, you're getting 20, 25, 30 instead of just 20, and that's at levels 1, 7, and 13. And then your second attack is giving 10, 12.5, 15 instead of just 10 at 1, 7, 13. That in and of itself, I don't think that affects his win rate more than like a fraction of a percent. The really big buff this patch is his resonating strike. His Q gets an extra 100 range, so it goes from 1100 to 1200. And his R goes from base damage from 150 to from 150 to 450. It's now 150 to 600, and I believe that's what it used to be before it got nerfed. If I'm not to do 600 base at rank 3, but now it's back to that point. And given that they're doing these buffs because Tracker's Knife got removed, and that was one of Lee Sin's core items, so my guess is that his win rate goes up 1.5% this patch. I think that the Q range buff is insane. I think it's going to be really good for him.
All right. I have no idea how to factor this because I mean I know that Lee Sin was hurting, so he would have taken a hit, right? And I feel like he's probably at an all-time low right now, right?
Yeah, right.
But like I don't know how much like adding range to the Q is a really big buff.
Yeah,
So I mean that's huge because he can already like gap close real well. And since he's probably in a bad spot, it'd probably be, it's easier to go from like a 40% win rate to a 42 than it is to go from like a 50 to a 52.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I
I'm going
agree
to
with that.
say 1.5%.
Okay. We're in agreement then. Excellent.
Okay.
Perfect. Just as I planned. Um,
I've misled him. Okay, so Lucian, this is a weird buff. So they
yeah.
said we like press the attack and what that did for Lucian. However, we wanted to up the base damage on his W, which was 60 to 220. Now it's 85 to 245. So it's not that much damage. I mean, it is at level 3, right? Because you would take Q, then dash, then this, right?
Mhm.
So 20 damage at level 3 is actually pretty big deal, right?
I don't think this does much for him. And then his R ratio per shot is going up from zero point 0.2 to 0.25, aka for his ult, that's from 4 to 6 total AD ratio to 5 to 7.5. I don't think this does much for him. I think he goes up like maybe 0.5% because his lane phase is going to be a little bit stronger now, and his level 6 and level 3 power spikes are both going to be better. But I don't think this does a lot for Lucian. I think that 0.5% is reasonable. I don't think it's going to do much more than that. I'd be surprised if it did.
I'm going to knock him up to 1%. I think with this, keep in mind, press the attack is going to multiply this stuff.
Sure, but press the attack got buffed last patch.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know.
I'm going to give him a
But it
full
doesn't press the
1%
attack
nod.
doesn't it do less of an amplification early and just more base damage now? Is that how it works?
I don't remember, to be totally honest. That was,
I'm pretty sure that's how they changed it. But
yeah. To be completely honest, the W has always tickled. Like it did no
yeah,
damage for the longest time, and it was almost like a waste of mana unless you were using it for the 2 auto attacks. So
right.
like, or unless you were hitting somebody before your ult to get the movement speed increase to keep your ult on them. And that was the only thing it was truly valuable for before. The fact that it does 25 more damage at level 1 is significant, but
Yeah,
it
I
does
think it is.
it does cost a lot of I mean, it's a 1.1 durability anyway, so it's just here's
I think
25
that
free damage.
a mana cost decrease would have actually helped it more than a damage increase. Honestly,
I agree.
I
I
think they're like,
honestly
what's the mana now? I think if they knocked like
it was
50
pretty
mana
high. It
cost
used
off
to
of
be
it,
pretty high.
yeah, I want to say it's like 60, but I could be completely wrong there.
50.
But I think that knocking off like 30 or not knocking off 30, knocking off like 10 to 15 mana from it would actually increase the win rate higher than that extra 25 damage does. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean it's 50 right now.
okay. Especially because he lost his Shiv this patch because he's not a good wave clear AD carry, and he could kind of buy Shiv to cheat his way to being a wave clear AD carry, especially because it synergizes so well with Essence Reaver. And I think that losing that option is going to hurt him a lot as well. So I'm going to say plus 0.5%. We'll see how it actually ends up, though.
I gave him
And
+1.
move on to Quinn.
All right, Quinn. This is kind of a weird one because they've done a lot here. So I'll just go over the changes and then we can talk. All right. Base attack damage is decreased by 3. Attack damage growth is increased by 0.6 a level to 3 from 2.4, right? So 0. 0.6 in 5 levels you will break even on the base attack damage, and then it will go up. So she's stronger 5 to 18 and is weaker 1 to 5.
Hurts her top lane possibly a little bit, but
Okay. Harrier. Attacks now trigger vulnerable marks that appear on their target while they're in flight, which is that Oh, while they're in flight. I was like, it always did that. New audio cues have been added. Hooray. That's so massively different.
Caw! Caw! The voice actor for Quinn. Have you seen that Sky Williams?
No, I have not.
The Valor to me. That's actually one of his funniest videos where he's just like, Valor to me. Quinn, you don't have a bird. Valor. It's really stupid.
All right.
But anyways.
R. Behind enemy lines. New. Sky Strike now applies vulnerable mark to all champions hit.
That's good.
That's really good. Removed. Taking damage while channeling no longer breaks the channel.
That's also good.
Okay. Hold on tight. Taking damage from non-minions while flying immediately ends behind enemy lines. Removes behind enemy lines bonus movement speed for 3 seconds. Okay, so it slows you down
That's
instead
also
of
good.
knocks you out of your bird.
Okay.
That's actually amazingly better. Because usually it was like while you were getting close to gap closing, that you would lose your freaking bird. You know what I mean? And then you lose all the bonus damage.
That's not what you wanted.
No, that's terrible. Taking damage from minions while flying no longer slows Valor. The enemy fountain is down. Automatically cast behind enemy lines and returning to the summoner's platform. Neat. So you don't have to...
And then a bunch of bug fixes, basically.
Yeah, and then no longer goes on 3-second cooldown in combat. Sky Strike no longer fails to cast if cast within the last 10 seconds. Why should it have done that anyway?
Why it's a bug fix, Blake.
Sky Strike no longer deals double damage when cast by reactivating R. It did? Jesus Christ. That seems like a pretty significant fucking bug. You know what I mean? Anyway.
Well, you know how it is.
Behind enemy lines no longer immediately ends when used near a turret that Quinn had been attacking. Canceling behind enemy lines while presence of mind is active no longer refunds the mana that was never consumed. Behind enemy lines no longer removes existing movement orders or ignores new movement orders given during its cast and channel.
Quinn no longer gains a mind of her own when you cast her ultimate.
Weird.
How lovely.
So, like, I don't know. I would say this is a pretty substantial buff, but also a pretty substantial nerf to her early game, which is where she was so dominant in the first place. I think she still will be dominant even with those changes. I don't think her kit becomes less of a lane bully, right? I mean, it does, but I don't think it's meaningful.
Right.
You know.
I'd say plus 1%.
And then I think like just the not losing your burst on your ultimate, because that was like a stupid thing to begin with. You know, I don't know. I'm gonna say plus 2%.
Yeah, I think that'll be really. I think that there was one thing that really stood out to me. What was it? The fact that Sky Strike now applies vulnerable mark to all champions hit.
Oh yeah, that
really
was
good.
huge. That was really huge.
That's really good for her.
Because I mean, she can literally drop in auto attack, kick, auto attack, Q, and that's 2 vulnerable marks popping on 1 target. That's huge burst damage.
Yeah, that's a lot. Quinn's never had much trouble doing damage. It's been having a terrible kit has been her main issue. But I don't think this actually like fixes any of her kit's core problems, but just makes her feel a whole lot better to play and more meaningful and rewarding to like, because everything in the fucking Rift doesn't affect your ultimate now. You can actually use it to do stuff.
Here's one that I'm curious about, and it's Rakan. So they buffed Rakan, right?
Yes.
And he gets... This is what makes no sense to me, okay?
Yeah, these buffs are stupid.
I'm going to read you what Riot says, and then we're going to talk about what they did and somehow connect those two things. Okay?
Sure.
Rakan is
Yeah,
currently struggling when paired with most marksmen. The obvious exception is Zaya. The two young lovebirds are doing pretty well together. We're looking to make Rakan more impactful on his own without further increasing his strength alongside his partner. Okay.
So they're
So,
just going to nerf the Zaya Rakan interactions and buff his interactions with other AD carries. It makes perfect sense, Blake. Please walk me through it.
okay. So, Q, Gleaming Quill, does 0.1 AP more from zero point 0.5 to zero point 0.6. That's the same whether he's with Zaya or any other ADC. His W, Grand Entrance, 0.5 AP to 0.7 AP. That's the same whether he's with Zaya or any other ADC. Right?
You are
E,
correct.
Battle Dance, range increases by 100 for everyone. Bonus range towards Zaya decreases by 100, which means it's completely unchanged.
Yeah, this literally does nothing for him. I say
And
his win rate doesn't change.
I don't think his win rate changes at all. Who's building AP on Rakan?
But Shirelli is now in the game, and Rakan wants that. I mean, it gives like a little tiny amount of AP. So
Well,
now
I mean,
he's gonna be good.
like really, why would you build AP on Rakan? I mean, it doesn't make sense
It's
because like you
building AP
have
on
to.
Bard. You know, it's not good. As much as
Well,
it seems like it'd
I'll tell you this:
be good, but
it's
it's
better
not.
on Bard than it is
Yes,
on
agreed.
Rakan. You know,
Agreed.
because
But
like
it's
here's
kind of
the
the same
thing though,
thing.
like Rakan has to dive in to do his kit. Like he has to do that. Granted, he can dive back out, but like what makes Rakan effective is hitting a lot of people with charm, and then you go charm and then W to hit a group of people so they're all charmed in, they can't get out of your W. You're going to knock them up, and then you're going to dash back, or you're going to auto a couple of times and then dash back, whatever, right?
Right.
That's what's going to happen. If you build AP and you go in and you don't hit their entire team, whoever's left over is going to blow you up. You're just going to be dead, right? Realistically,
Yeah,
before you get out.
you don't get much innate tankiness on Rakan the way that you do on other engaged supports like Leona or Thresh. You don't get those bonus defensive stats on him that you want for a champion that dives in. So yeah, I'm
So I
not
mean, you've got
a
to build
huge fan
some
of this
tank.
change.
Yeah, you got to build some tank, and I
Yeah, you
don't.
have to.
You're not building any AP. So how is this a buff? You know, it's like, yeah, he builds some AP on Rakan. Well, no, I'm not really going to do that. He already had enough damage in his base items anyway to be effective. Like, he feels fine.
Yeah.
And then, like, that's the other thing is, like, we want him to be stronger with everybody else, you know, without increasing his strength with Zaya. So they do two things that increase his strength. I mean, if you built AP, which debatably whether they increase his strength or not, with everybody else and Zaya, right? Because he gets that Q and he gets that
has the
W
same
buff.
effect either way.
Yeah, with Zaya or without her, it doesn't matter. And then his deal with Zaya is the exact same. He goes 600 to 700 and he loses 100 special with Zaya. Who cares?
So basically all he gained is an extra 100 range with other AD carries on his dash. That's it. And that's not going to be enough to affect his win rate.
Don't get me wrong. That's really good. Like, as somebody who's played Rakan, that's really good. That is the only buff here. The other two are completely irrelevant, right? Now, that being said, I don't like that actually is a substantial buff. I'm not going to like minimize that's big, right? Because I'll tell you, as a Rakan player, it is super frustrating that I can literally, you can go an asinine distance with Rakan and Zaya. It's like really dumb.
Yeah.
How far you can go. Like,
I don't units. That's like the range of Lee Sin Q almost.
Yeah, I don't understand why they made it that far in the first place. Right? Because I'm like, you can get out of anything with her around. It's really not a thing. But like to be able to do that 700 is still really big with just a regular ADC. So yeah, I think Rakan will get a buff out of this, but I think it has nothing to do with Gleaming Quill or Grand Entrance getting a zero point 0.1 AP or a 0.2 AP ratio buff because you're not building AP.
Yeah.
And if you do, you're probably building it wrong. And if they want to buff him enough that his AP ratios become significant, then why did you design his kit to do the things it does? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I'm on your side, dude.
Like those
Yeah,
two
no,
buffs,
I totally understand what you're saying.
increase the base damage then. You know what I mean?
I think that these feel like very lazy buffs that came in at the last second. They're like, oh, just give him some AP ratio and call it a day.
Yeah,
Because
but
they
I mean,
didn't
they're
want to
like,
act
well,
like,
we
because he's a
don't
complex.
we don't want to buff him with Zaya. Well, it's like, but you did because you gave him 2 normal buffs and then you gave him a net 0 third buff. Granted, the net 0 third buff is
The one that actually matters.
the one that actually matters, but I don't know. I'm gonna say Rakan goes up a percent or two. Like, actually, I'm gonna give it 2%. I'm gonna say it's a pretty big buff. The extra 100 range, that's really big. You'll feel that. Because the other thing is, if you play him, you like never die on that champion. The only time you really die is if you fucked up and you've got no one to jump to. He is so slippery. And something that makes him more slippery is dumb.
Yeah, and then I think we can just skip this Zaya change because it's purely a Zaya Rakan interaction, so it wouldn't really make any sense to try to make anything out of it, because when Deadly Plumage is active on both Zaya and Rakan, when one of them basically attacks an enemy, it's changed from both of their Deadly Plumages strike that enemy to only their own Deadly Plumage strikes that enemy. I don't really think that it makes much sense to call a win rate change on this one because it only happens in a very select number of games.
Actually, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to edit my Rakan 2% and drop it down to a 1%.
Because this is technically a Rakan nerf as well. Yeah.
Yep.
And then Zaya, is going to be really strong. This doesn't impact her in 80 to 90% of games. So I'm going to say that her win rate stays the same. Because Zaya and Rakan are already going to dominate. But
I honestly feel like this is more of a Rakan nerf than a Zaya nerf. Well, no, I mean, it's saying Rakan than a Zaya nerf because together they do a stupid amount of damage. Like, as a bot lane duo, they are ungodly strong. I think they've been like sleeper for a really long time as a pair.
Except
Zaya on her own has always been good.
Yeah.
You know,
I agree.
I think Zaya has always been like, I think Zaya is almost like Sivir 2.0 because because of her ult you can't catch her, because of Sivir's spell shield you can't catch her. You know what I mean? Uh-huh. So it's like, and I think she's does more damage than Sivir, and in the late game does more, right? So I think she's like a really good Sivir that's good with anybody. It doesn't really matter. And Rakan was like pretty dependent on her to be good. I think
still is that.
Yeah, I think he
hasn't
still
changed.
Is. I don't think that's changed.
So yeah, and so I'm gonna say Zaya stays the same on this patch. What do you say?
I mean, Zaya I think won't really change. No. I think she would change in the Zaya Rakan matchup, but you know what I mean. But I don't think.
Yeah,
that's like
it's weird to try to call it because it's such a specific thing. I'm just gonna say Zaya stays the same, and then that's actually it for this patch. So once the Rito API picks up all the win rate changes, we can go on champion.gg or something to figure out how much these win rates actually changed. We'll post the result. I think I actually talked to Sam about it, and he said that it would make the most sense to post the results on Twitter. And so we'll go ahead and post those after this episode goes live. We'll see what actually happened in the week following the patch to change these win rates. And yeah, I think that we're about ready to close out. You got any closing statements, Blake?
Yeah, sure. I did. I actually wanted to talk a little bit about Shurelius. We offhandedly
Oh yeah,
mentioned
yeah.
it, and it's a pretty big deal.
Yes,
Um,
we will talk about that
so
actually.
they removed Talisman of Ascension's activatable effect. They removed the Frost Queen Claims activatable effect, and they put in these items to deal with that. So Frost Queens, has like the Spooky Ghost on Twin Shadows or whatever, right? So they added back in an item that you could purchase that would give you the same net effect. This is the same damn thing for Ancient Coin. And so they said basically they wanted an item like Ancient Coin to give everybody a everybody goes button, right? But while Righteous Glory was a thing, it was really more geared towards tank supports and tanks in general that would want Righteous Glory. But Shurelia's is designed to like feel good on everybody. Is the idea.
Yeah, I actually think that it's kind of lacking. So the stats are it's 2100 gold. The build path is
Okay, so that's
Aether Wisp Kindle Gem
first off,
450.
2100 gold is cheap as fuck, so you shouldn't
That's
expect a
true.
lot in this
Right.
item.
That's I mean that's true. I agree with that. The AP is 40, the health is 200, the CDR is 10, because it wouldn't be a support item if they didn't stick CDR in it somewhere.
Yeah,
The movement speed is 8%.
yeah, like I don't know why
Oh,
they
what were you
do
gonna say?
that cuz like I end pretty much every game with like a shitload of CDR. And
Yeah,
it's like
I mean, I feel like it would be better to have like either 50 AP or 55 AP or 400 health instead of 200 health. I feel like
yeah.
supports would have preferred either of those compared to the 10% CDR. But
Yeah.
like I said, it wouldn't be a support item if it didn't have CDR.
So I mean, what champions do you think we're going to see this on? Cuz like
Dude, okay. I'm actually taking back everything that I said about Rakan because he loves this item and it gives 40 ability power with his point 0.3 ability power total damage
it will
increase.
do
That's going to
4
be
and
this
8
item
more
alone.
damage on each of his abilities. That is a
That's
whopping 12
insane.
damage. Yeah, that's 12
That's
damage, man.
nuts, dude. Rakan is going to be the highest win rate support after this item goes live. But this actually does kind of help Rakan. This is actually a good item on him, but I don't think it's enough to. I don't think it's enough. And the active is grants everyone nearby on your team 40% movement speed for 3 seconds on a 60 cooldown.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like this item on a few supports. I like it on Bard, but I just think that there are better options. Like I think that Aegis of the Legion and Locket are just more effective on a lot of supports, and I don't know. I just think that the stats are too weirdly distributed for it to be really good at anything in particular. Maybe it's good on like Sona, maybe, but
Janna, I
I
think
just
it's good on.
yeah, I think it's good on Janna. But I don't know if you'd be better served by buying like a McHale's and a Locket on Janna or an
Well,
Sensor. You know what I mean?
okay, so keep
Like
in mind the major difference between this item and like the Righteous Glory, right? Is aside from lack of as many tank stats, right? Like, look up the stats on Righteous Glory real quick while I finish this deal. But like, yeah,
yeah,
you're not going to get as many defensive stats out of it, but it gives 40% movement speed in every scenario. It's not just running towards the enemy or a tower. It's away as well.
I have the stats here if you'd like to
Yeah.
hear them.
What are they?
It's 2,500 gold, 500 HP, 300 mana, and 100% base health regen.
Okay. So that's what I was really looking for was the HP. So yeah, it's significantly more HP, but it's also more gold. And yeah, okay, mana's good, but whatever. But I mean, what's the active effect? Like, what do you get out of that?
Um, I will look at it momentarily. The active effect is and apparently it also gives 10 CDR, so that's
Of course
important.
it
I think it
does.
got nerfed to only 400 health now. I think it only gives 400 health. I don't know how old this is, actually. This might be old. But for 4 seconds, grants 75% bonus movement speed when moving towards enemies. But I believe it's just for, and then after you get close, you emit a shockwave, slowing nearby enemy champions for 2 seconds. But it's only for your champion is the main difference. It's a bigger movement speed bonus, and you get a slow at the end of it, but it's only for your champion.
Right.
It doesn't affect your allies.
The activatable effect on Shurelia's is huge. It's a mini Sivir ult. And yeah, that movement speed can be used on your ADC to be like, hey, get the fuck out. Like, you can peel somebody trying to dive your ADC by popping Shurelia's.
Yeah.
Like, that's huge.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
I'm interested to see.
Is. Or, like, you can gap
becomes
close and create
powerful.
an initiation on a weak team. So that's good. I mean, this item is really fucking good. And it always was. That's why they implemented it into coin, right?
Right.
So, and for that price, the activatable effect is good enough on its own.
Well, you're the support main, so I will default to you on this.
I think it's a really good item. I think it gets like all support items, it gets outclassed by more expensive items later in the game. But I think you can't replace the activatable effect on the champions that you'd want to have it on. So it's just going to be, well, you know, you don't have a higher AP item or you don't have a higher health item, but you get a sweet activatable effect, so have fun. I mean, it's got a 1 minute cooldown. That's stupidly low.
That is low, actually. You're right.
So, yeah, this item's great. Like, this is a really good item.
Well, fine.
Yeah.
Let's see if I care.
Fuck you, Ponderous.
Fuck you, Blake.
All right. With that, let's wrap this bitch up.
All right. Fucking, I'm at Michael T. Largent on Twitter. So go follow me, you little bitches. I'm sure you can see some great banter between Wise Papa Smurf and I if you go follow us on Twitter.
Yeah, that's mostly all we do on Twitter is me and you banter. That's
true. And yeah, I don't know where I was going with this.
Well,
fucking was there gonna be? Oh yeah, we're gonna, like I was mentioning, we're gonna put the results of who's right, who's wrong, who's a bitch on Twitter, on the LOLA at LOLA podcast on Twitter. So
and additionally,
you can go see the results of that.
The listener question episode. If you submitted a question to Sam, we're doing that next week.
Yes. So
that,
be there
that got moved.
at the normal time.
So be there, be square next week, and we will get that done.
That is Thursday at 8 Central.
Thursday at 8 Central, I think.
Yes.
All right, man. Let's wrap this bitch up. We went long. We were supposed to go short. We went long. So.
Whoops. There's a lot of stuff.
Whoops. All right.
Let's do our signature catchphrase together, Blake. 1, 2, 3.
Good night, everybody.
All right, we're signing off, guys.
I don't know what you're doing. What's your catchphrase?
My catchphrase is just Blake's a bitch.
Oh, Blake's a bitch. That's a good catchphrase. I think it'll catch on. You know, people will really appreciate that. Anyway, all right. Good night, everybody. Stopping recording.
File. Save.